Hey guys, and welcome to a new episode of Digital Classroom. Today we have a shorter one, but a very special one because we get a lot of questions about this topic. So I did want to address it. We have the chat open on YouTube. I can't monitor it at the moment on Facebook because Week isn't here. So I'm now doing this solo. So are you ready to get some information about the usage of a NAS, or in other words, how to keep your images safe? But we're going to do a lot more. So join us for today's episode of Digital Classroom, a short live stream in between. It's going to be awesome. Okay. So we all know that we love our photos, right? We love our videos. We love everything about the stuff that we create because we are creators. So that also means that everything that you create is something that you want to keep, right? You want to keep it safe for the very simple reason you don't want to lose that stuff. Now, in the past, we were very, very careful for the very simple reason you knew if something was on a piece of paper and you lost that piece of paper, well, it was gone. Nowadays, we feel very confident because, hey, we have it on our hard drive, right? Well, to give you a little bit of a backside information about us, Enrique and I both run a computer company for over 22 years. One of the main problems we saw in the computer company was actually people coming in and asking us like, hey, we lost all our photos. Can you get it back? Most of the time, the people just trusted that their photos were on the hard drive and it was okay. It's not. We also got a lot of people in with, for example, a laptop, and they say, Frank, it should be on the second drive. And we were just opening up the laptop and there was no second drive. So what a lot of people thought, like, hey, if I make two partitions, a C and a D drive, and I store it on the D drive, the C drive, if it crashes, the D drive will be, not realizing that it's exactly the same drive. So with digital, you might say that we can lose our data way easier than on our old system with paper or film. So how do we solve something like this? Well, I'm just going to show you how we do it in our studio. And I'm also going to show you something that's really cool about photos from Synology. And Synology is actually the NAS that we use, but everything I'm going to tell you today, except the photos part, can also be done on every other NAS. So let's switch over to our picture-in-picture so I can show you guys what we do. I'm using Adobe Fresno at the moment to draw something out for you guys, but that's just because it's easy, right? Okay, let's find my Apple Pencil. There we go. Okay, so first things first. Now, there are several ways of storing your data. Let's say you have a computer, right? This is your PC or your Mac. It doesn't really matter. Now, there's one option. It's called a DAS. Now, a DAS is a direct attached storage system. So most of the times you use a USB-C. I'll make this a little bit smaller. So most of the times you will use USB-C. And this is a very, very fast connection. So in other words, you can copy files over almost instantly. Another option is if you want more people to access your data. And that's actually called a NAS. Now a NAS is something else. So a DAS is direct attached storage. A NAS is via the network. So you go from your computer into something called a switch. And you have several network adapters here. And one of those network adapters goes to your NAS. So where with USB-C you have a direct connection that's really, really fast. With a NAS you go through your switch to your NAS, which in all essence is pretty fast too. Okay, so how does a NAS work? Yeah, I know. I'm lazy today. Okay, so how does a NAS actually work? Well, most of the times when you store something, people are used to doing it the old-fashioned way, and I did the same thing. So when I started out, I had this huge box with several hard drives. Hard drive 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, the main problem was this. This was, for example, a 1 terabyte, a 2 terabyte, a 1 terabyte, a 2 terabyte, and a 1 terabyte. I just shout out something, right? Now, when you store images on this system, I actually saw on my computer a D, a E, a F, a G, and an H drive. So I had all these drives, and it was awesome because it was externally very, very fast. It worked like a charm. There was only one problem. When this drive became full, so you had 99% full, you had to replace that drive. Now, the main problem was that copying all that data took a huge amount of time. So you take out this drive, you exchange it for a 2 terabyte drive, and you spend the better part of a day copying those files over with a lot of risks, because you never know if those files will be over, well, correctly, right? So this is not a perfect solution. You don't really want this. So what is a NAS and what is the main advantage? Well, we have the same system. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 drives, for example. But we're not using those drives as a D, E, F, G, H drive. We are using one drive letter, or in this case, because it's over a network, we use one server. So we have 5 hard drives combined into one physical server. In this case, a NAS. So what happens inside the NAS? Let's say you have the same setup. So you have a 1 terabyte drive, a 2 terabyte, maybe a 3 terabyte, and a 2 terabyte drive. Now, in a NAS, and also in a DAS, by the way, you can set it up. There's an option called RAID. And you spell it like this. You probably already saw this. Now, in RAID, there are several options. Now, the most well-known is mirroring. What mirroring actually means is if you have 5 hard drives, it will divide those hard drives exactly through the middle, and it will mirror everything from hard drive 1 to hard drive 2. Meaning, if a hard drive fails, you take the hard drive out, you put a new hard drive in, and the NAS actually rebuilds everything by itself, like magic. What we usually do is, for example, RAID 5. Now, with RAID 5, it's a little bit less complicated than mirroring, and also a little bit more complicated. So what is less complicated? With mirroring, you lose a lot of data because you're literally mirroring one drive to another. So if you need 4 terabytes of storage, you need 8 terabytes of hard drives because it mirrors. With RAID 5, you only take away a little bit of that information. So for example, if you have 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, so this is 5 and this is 4, so you have 9 terabytes in total. What it will actually do is take away a little bit of the terabyte. So let's say you keep 7 terabytes. I don't know exactly how it is. What it actually does is it combines all these hard drives together. So it stitches them together as one big volume for you. Internally, it does something else. It writes, for example, some data on this drive, some data on this drive, some data on this drive. And it, for example, it writes down a parity file somewhere else. Now, what is a parity file? A parity file is something they use. If a drive fails, it can put back together the data by using everything that's left on the other drives. So let's say you have, for example, an equation 1 plus x equals 2. What is x? Well, normally when everything works, x will be 1, right? But if something goes wrong and you lose the x, you still know that the answer is 2. So you know that there should be a 1 here. So you can rebuild that, right? If you have a catastrophic failure, I'm sorry for that. For example, you get 1 plus something plus something plus something equals 3. Now you lose data. So although a RAID system looks incredibly confident, it isn't 100% safe. So what we in our studio do, we actually use 2 systems. We use one DAS system that's directly attached to my computer. That's where all the photos are, the raw files, and of course the retouched files, all the video files. And we have a NAS system in our studio that actually creates the backups from all those photos. Okay, so what can you do with a NAS next to that? Now, when we look at a normal system, sorry, I know there's an easier way to do this, but hey, when you have a normal system, you have like a pool. And this is all your data. So when you want to access that data, you just go through that data. You go through that data, person 3, person 4, and of course person 1. So we can all access that data. Now, of course, in Windows and Mac, you can hide certain folders by using passwords, or you can zip the files with a password. But it's still, everybody can get into those folders, right? And you don't want it. Sometimes you don't want people to be snooping around in your stuff, right? So one of the main advantages of a NAS is that you can actually do the following. For example, the admin, me and Anouk, we can access everything. But our interns can only access this. So we can still see everything that the intern does, but the intern can't see what we do. And there's something else that's really cool. On our NAS, we actually also created a different part, and that's totally hidden from everybody except of course from us. Let me change the audio a little bit. I think it's a little bit over, it's a little bit clipping. So that extra part we actually use for our downloads. So when you store those online, they charge you a lot of money, and we charge not a lot of money for our videos. So to make it profitable, well, storing it locally is a way better solution. Now that download part is only accessible for people through the internet. So our interns can't get there, I of course can get there, but it's a totally separated part of our NAS. You could even run a website on it, which we don't, but you could. And there's also something else. For example, my parents, they want to be able to download some things, for example. They want to, well, maybe some photos. Okay, let me see what's going on here. Somehow my color just changed over. Oh, there we go. So my parents also want to download something. So I just gave them access to one part of my NAS. And maybe our models, they also want to download their files, right? So I also give them access to part of our DAS. So when we look at it, we actually have one part that's for us. So Anne-Week and me. We have a part that's for interns. Then we have a part separate, which is externally accessible. So for example, our downloads, our models, all the pictures we do, maybe our clients, and my parents for our images. Okay, so you might wonder, Frank, your parents for the images? What are you talking about? Well, you know that sometimes you walk somewhere with your dog or whatever, and you see a beautiful area. You go like, oh, this is so beautiful. I want to send this to my parents. I want to make sure that they also experience what I'm experiencing. And nowadays we all have smartphones, right? So let's take a picture with my smartphone now. And remember what I'm taking a picture of at the moment. So I'm taking my smartphone. I'm taking a picture. Let me do it like this because we're live. Awesome. And I got the picture. I'm not going to do anything else at the moment. Except, of course, turn off my phone. Okay, so I got the picture. I remember this. Okay, so what did we do with the NAS for that? Now, let's open up Synology Photos. Now, this is a software package that you actually get with your Synology NAS. And this is beautiful. Why does it show Synology Photos instead of, one moment, let me disconnect and connect again. Oh, I know what's going on. When you run Synology Photos on your iPad and you connect an external display, it will actually act as a monitor, as you can see here. Okay, we don't want that, so let's go to the web version. And luckily I prepared for this. Always be prepared, right? Okay, Synology Photos. Okay, let me sign in. So let me do this. There we go. Okay. Okay, let me log in. And password. Okay, awesome. Not now. Okay, go to my Synology NAS and let's go to Synology Photos and then let's show you guys again. Okay, there we go. Sorry, sometimes, well, live streams. Okay, so this is Synology Photos and you have the same app on your phone and you have the same app on your desktop and you have the same app on your tablet. This is where the fun starts. Now, I love taking pictures with my phone, right? And I like to share that with my parents, but my parents are, well, they're older, right? And when I tell my parents, okay, you have to install Lightroom and you have to install Lightroom mobile and I'm going to send pictures to there and you have to, they often go like, yeah, Frank, I'm very fine, but can't you just give me the pictures? So what we did, we gave them a digital photo frame, Framio. So from our computer, we can actually share images to Framio. But sometimes we don't want to share images to a digital frame. We just want to upload all the images that I took and let my parents browse. And this is where Photos from Synology really comes in super handy. Now, let me make one thing 100% clear first. I'm a Lightroom user. And I use Lightroom Classic and I use Lightroom CC a lot. Literally a lot. So you can't compare this to Lightroom, but I want to show you some stuff that's really interesting for us as photographers. Now, remember that photo that I took with my smartphone? Well, there it is. So you might wonder like, hey Frank, how did that happen? Well, very simple. You can set up that when you take a picture with your phone, it automatically uploads everything to Photos from Synology. Now on the app on your phone or on your tablet, you can actually set it up for a local area. So as soon as I enter this building, you have to start uploading. You can set it up only on Wi-Fi, only on when you are in a certain area or when you run a certain it's totally customizable when you upload. So don't worry if you have a limited data plan. Just take pictures with your phone and make sure that you set it up correctly in the app. So I have it set up on always uploading because we have unlimited data and it's really fast. But if you're abroad and you don't have unlimited data, set it up only upload when you're near a Wi-Fi station. That works like a charm. Okay, so it stores everything now on the NAS in our computers, in our computer room, so where the NASs are. The main thing about this is when I'm on vacation or when I'm having a trip or when I'm doing behind the scenes photos, you can always lose your phone or something can go wrong with your phone. Maybe you delete an image by accident. This way, as soon as I take the image, about 20 or 30 seconds later, I know it's safe on my NAS at home or in the studio, depending on which NAS I use. We have one in our home and our studio, of course. So that's a very, very easy solution, just auto-uploading those files. A little bit the same as Lightroom does. Now you might wonder, Frank, why not use Lightroom? Well, again, my parents. The thing about Synology Photos is that also within Synology Photos, I can select which albums to use. So let's go for our album view. Now, if you look at our album views, you actually see that we have places. Now, places, what is that? Remember in Lightroom, you have the Maps module. It's about the same. So it will find out if you take a picture with GPS coordinates. For example, I take a picture in Emmeloord or in Marknesse with my parents. I can see everything that my parents took from Chewy or images that we took from Chewy, our dog, in case you didn't know that. But we can also see, okay, what did we do in Noord-Brabant? Okay, that was the photo fair, now I remember. And of course, what did we do in Emmeloord? Well, that's a lot more because we actually live in Emmeloord. So this all works like a charm for maps. But hey, I see a lot more, Frank. I saw places, but I also saw something else, tags. Yes. Now, remember that sometimes you are on location and you want to show your portfolio to somebody and you don't want to open up Lightroom. Well, this is also an option. Now, in Lightroom, you can use keywords, right? You can give a photo a keyword, and then in Lightroom, you can make a smart album. Now, what is a smart album? A smart album is a collection of images with the same keyword tags. And they use exactly the same with Synology. So for example, if I go for guitar, I see all the images I took with guitars. Well, the ones I selected, of course, for this. When I do slideshow FD, that's actually my best work. And in the computer, or in Lightroom, I actually label these images as slideshow FD. Again, this is just a small selection. Also for Chewy, so all these images have the keyword Chewy. Now comes the fun part. Those keywords are recognized from Lightroom. So in other words, the only thing you have to do is go to albums, press the plus, and don't do select photos to create an album, but literally go to set conditions. Now you can give it a name, like for example, test, and you can literally say conditions, enter a keyword. Now I never entered any keywords in the Synology app. Let's see if it works. Slideshow FD. Hey, there we go, slideshow FD. So that's a tag that I actually added in Lightroom and not in Synology Photos. So this works like a charm if you want to create albums based on a keyword. But there's more. See this one? Sharing. Share with others. Hey, there's one with Chewy. Yes, all the images we take from Chewy, we label Chewy, and we create an album created with all the text with the name Chewy. So now when I press here, these are all the images I have in this album from Chewy. Now comes the fun part. Press the share button, and now you can enable the share link. Only invited users or anyone with the link can view or download images. This is the quick connect. We're going to change that later, of course, because this is a demo. Anyone with the link can view, and you can even say require a password or expire on. Now this link I can copy and actually send to my parents. And then when my parents open that link, they will literally see a beautiful album with images from Chewy, and they can literally just go through them, see all the different images, and well, download the images or whatever they want to do with them. Now, of course, they are still safe on our NAS, but my parents can change that over if they want to their own computer. Now, this personally saves me a lot of work, because otherwise I have to send those images to them via the email. Sometimes the images are too large, and well, they can't save the images, so you do it via you know, there's a lot of problems by getting images to somebody that isn't working on a computer like on a daily basis. And this really, really helps out a lot. Okay, so let's switch over to our main camera again. Okay, so the reason for the live stream was actually that still we hear a lot of people complaining that they lose images. We hear a lot of people complaining like, hey, I want to give my client access to my images, but I don't want to do it on a web server. What can we do? Can we do WeTransfer? Can we do Dropbox? Can we do OneDrive? They all work. But let's be honest, when we deliver our images to our clients or to our models, it's often, well, in total, maybe 50 gigs that's there for a month. Because sometimes the client, yeah, I will download it next week. And you look and it's still not downloaded, but it all takes up space online. Now, sometimes you have an unlimited account, no problem, dump everything online. But if you don't, well, use a NAS. Another main advantage that a lot of people don't realize is internet speed. So for example, last week we did a live stream for a photo club and we recorded everything on our computer, but that's 12 gigs. They asked me like, hey Frank, can you send it to us? WeTransfer, 12 gigs, I don't know. Dropbox, 12 gigs, not anymore. OneDrive, we can use 12 gigs, but it takes a lot of time to upload it. And it takes a lot of space on our OneDrive, of course. We don't have that problem. We just place it on the NAS in our client's area. That's 10 seconds, maybe copying from the desktop to the NAS. We create a quick link for our client, and I don't care when they download it. The NAS is huge. You will never fill that up with stuff that you share with people. While online storage, you have to upload it. It's online. It takes up your space, and maybe you have to pay for it. I don't know, but working on a NAS is just a way better solution. Now, of course, there is a problem if you have very, very slow internet, because they will literally just block your internet when downloading. So we have fiber at home and in our studio. So we have an up and down link of 125 megabytes, you know what I mean. So it's a very, very fast upload and download. So for us, it's not really a problem, but clients just love it that they have an access where they can keep the files for a month or 2 months, and we don't complain like, hey, did you download it already? We need the space. It doesn't really look professional, right? To call a customer and go like, hey, can you download it? I'm a photographer, but we need the space. It's a little bit weird. Okay, so keep your images safe. On a NAS, it's the best way to store your images because, well, when you need to replace the drive, I didn't know if I told you that already. In the RAID 5 system, with the old system, if I replaced the drive, I had to copy all the files over to the new drive. With a RAID 5 system, it can of course recover itself when one of the drives breaks down, but if one of the drives is full, you feel it coming, right? You just take out the 1 terabyte drive, you put in a new 3 or 2 terabyte drive, and the NAS will start repairing itself because it sees it as a drive that's defective, and it will rebuild itself to a new drive. Now, there are a few things you have to be careful for. One, a NAS is not fail-safe. Of course, what is the chance that 2 hard drives break down? You might say not a lot. Yes, there's a lot of chances that 2 hard drives break down. When we ran the computer company, we always try to order hard drives from different manufacturers in different time periods. Now, of course, you can't do that for the very simple reason you buy a box and that's a little bit cheaper, right, than 1 hard drive. So what we did as soon as we found out like, hey, we need more hard drives than normal, so when the computer company started to grow, we couldn't just order drives anymore, we needed boxes. Everything we did was if we had a client, for example, a school that ordered computers, we never built the same box hard drives in all the computers for the very simple reason. We found out that if a hard drive fails, it's often also near that serial number. So imagine this, you're delivering 10 computers to a school and all 10 computers work fine. And then after a week, 8 of those computers have hard drive failures. That's not a very good number for your business, right? So what we did is we ordered the same hard drives from 3 different stocks. We combined them together, and for one client, they actually got 3 different stocks, same hard drive, same space, but different serial numbers, different batches. And at that way, we try to spread the risk a little bit. So when you build your NAS, I highly recommend you, if you start building it, make sure that you order your hard drives not in a box with same serial numbers, but just with different serial numbers. Just a little tip. Another thing is, we live in a rural area. That means that we have a lot of lightning strikes over here when it is raining and when we have thunder. Now, the lightning strike itself can of course kill your equipment, but also the EMF charge. Now, when we ran the computer company, we often had that when there was a lightning strike at one of the farms, we actually got that computer back that was totally destroyed, but we also got a lot of weird problems from people that lived around that area. So a lot of hard drives that failed, memory banks that were defective, main board CPUs. We had a lot of problems with those area people. And the cool thing is, we earned money at that moment. The bad thing is, they lost a lot of data. So although a NAS looks really, really safe, I still highly recommend use something like a power surge protector behind it. You can use a UPS, uninterrupted power supply. So that means when the power goes down, you have something called power shoot. Now, power shoot actually keeps your NAS up long enough to shut it down. So as soon as the UPS finds out, hey, there's no more power, it will actually start up a little protocol and it will shut down your NAS softly. Because we all know that just yanking out a cable from a hard drive that spins, it's not a really good idea. So make sure that besides that, so protect it for powering, protect it for when the power goes down, and it's all pretty cheap. But also, and it sounds really weird, but also very logical, make sure that you have a second NAS. We have one in our home and one in the studio, and those two are also synced with each other. So that means that if something goes wrong in the studio and I use my DAS, my direct attached storage, I use my NAS, my network attached storage, it's probably a fire or something worse, I still have everything in my home set up in a mirror. So it costs you a lot of money, but in the end, ask yourself, when I lose everything I have digitally, how much would it be worth for me to get everything back? And I think when you ask that directly, they go like, oh, 3,000-4,000 euros, no problem. Having a NAS and having it double maybe cost you 700 euros. And then you are protected on a very, very good way. Okay, so for today, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. So mostly the way that we use a NAS, and also to give you just a heads up, data can be lost. Don't feel too safe. But also, of course, the Synology Photos app, which is absolutely awesome. I use it daily to back up, of course, my phone. But also my parents can now see the images of Chewy coming in the moment we shut them. For the very simple reason, we tag them with Chewy. And at that moment, they upload automatically to our Synology Photos. Now, there are many brands of NASes. As mentioned before, we ran a computer company for over 20 years. And the less problems you have with the system, the more you trust the system. Now, without any doubt, during that period, the NASes from Synology were the ones that, one, were the most frequently updated, were the ones that we had the least problems with, and when you needed technical support, they literally answered the phone and they helped you out. So we once had a problem with a Synology NAS that really was bad. The customer really messed up, and still Synology helped us over the phone line. At that moment we didn't have any fiber yet, so it took them 3 or 4 days to recover their drives, and they did it over the phone. So that was awesome, great service, and the client was very happy. Another tip I want to give you guys, and I don't know how important it is for modern day NASes, we don't try it, but we knew that in the older NASes, when you have a problem with your NAS itself, for example the power supply, or maybe the main board, and your hard drives are still okay, don't yank them out like this. Number the hard drives. So when you have a 5-bay NAS, label the bays 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and use an arrow with the 1 just to make sure that you know it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When Synology or any other manufacturers offers you to change your NAS, take out the hard drives, label them exactly the same way, and when you get a new NAS in, insert them in exactly the same order. Again, I don't know if that still goes for today's NASes. In the past we had huge problems with that when a customer just brought in a bunch of hard drives, a defective NAS, and said, yeah, we took the hard drives out already, and we went, no. Because at that point, when we put the hard drives together, it didn't work as it was supposed to work. Okay guys, thank you so very much for this stream. This was a totally impromptu stream. We didn't prepare anything, but I just wanted to share with you guys because we got a lot of questions in after our live stream for Synology, and that one wasn't recorded. So I thought, you know what, let's do this live stream and let's make sure that this one stays online so you guys can watch it back. Thank you so very much for watching, guys. Stay safe. Subscribe to our channel. Leave comments below because this was a live stream, so we don't have a lot of live viewers. But if you have questions, leave them in the comments below and I will answer them within a few hours. Thank you so very much.